Hi everyone, my name is Kenny
And my name is Rian, and welcome to Candid Perspectives.
with Kenny and Ryan.
Hi, welcome to Candid Perspectives with Kenny and Rian. Today we'll be discussing parenting in a pandemic.
Okay, so today we'll be joined by two parents. I'll allow them to introduce themselves. So whoever wants to go first.
Well, given it's a ladies' world, we'll have ladies first.
Hi, and good day. I'm Maricel Melville. Yes, mom of two for now.
Great.
I am Ruel Ellis. Yes, I'm dad of three. At least I've been held responsible for three.
All right.
All right.
First question. Do you work from home?
Well,
I will go. Well, yes. And I apologize for the busy background. But yes, since March, I work with an international organization based in Trinidad. But since March, I've been privileged to work from home. So yeah, I work from home, but it's work for an external organization. It's not my own business per se.
okay. So, yes, I work from home, mainly from home. I teach at the university and in the Faculty of Engineering. I do go in from time to time just to sign papers and then leave, but
Right.
mainly from home.
Okay. And would you say that your child or your children ever get in the way of your work?
Do you want me to go first? I can go
Well,
first.
how candid are we supposed to be? I'm
Very
just kidding.
candid.
1000%.
1000% candid.
There are days when it's difficult because I do have two boys. One is in fifth form and the other one is in grade two or standard two. I'm not quite sure what the equivalence is. And so, they are also housebound. And there are days when I have meetings like we're doing now. And we're still even though we're in separate spaces, there are days when it can get in the way in terms of, the functioning of everything. But in terms of work in general, no, my two boys have not been a hindrance to my career or to the work that I do. So for now, there's no problem with having the children and being able to work in the field that I work in.
Okay.
Interesting. I am a little more fortunate. I'm dealing with young adults, at least a young adult who lives with me. And initially, it was me interfering with her work because when I speak loudly, and sound travels. And I was told I used to upset a class. But I have, should I say, migrated to another part of the house where I'm further away. So I guess I've stopped interfering with her work.
All right. Well, seeing that your children aren't a hindrance to your work, do you find it harder to work at home or have you always worked from home?
Um, I mean, to be okay, so for me, let me just distinguish. There are days when I have to work while at home because sometimes the work doesn't fit in the time at the office, So
Right.
as parents, sometimes when we were working in office, you would still come home, try to get some basic things done, feed the kids, supervise homework or put them to bed, and then you sort of resume work. These days, as I'm in full telework, one of the challenges, of course, has been time boundaries. We don't have as many transition points between work and home anymore because, I mean, the shift from home to work is really bedroom to table. And so for me, that translates also into difficulties with the time boundaries because I will get up early before the boys get up and try to start at about, I won't call the ridiculous hour sometimes, let's say 5 o'clock as an example. And then, in the evening, even when you want to quit working, let's say at 5 p.m. or so, things spill over. And then I tend to have a bit of a unique situation where because it's an organization in various time zones, and the colleagues in my team are also now in various time zones. I have a director who is in Zambia, that's 6 hours ahead. You know, I have colleagues in other parts of the world. So I cannot always work at an 8 to 5 Trinidad and Tobago time. So sometimes, you know, the work spills over very early morning into late nights. And then is when it can be a significant challenge, because you're still trying to balance all of the other duties that continue to exist within the household. So that has been challenging to some extent in terms of working at home.
Okay.
Do not envy you. For me, let's see. I coordinate the MSc Project Management Program. And we've had students in Tobago, Guyana, St. Vincent. So even before the pandemic, when the enrollment in Tobago and Guyana dropped, we stopped traveling to Tobago and Guyana. So I put the program online. So we used to teach separately the foreign students online from distance, and the Trinidadian cohort, we would teach them face to face. When the pandemic hit, sent everybody online, and it's one class now. So it was easy for me to transition. I guess I have a lot of rituals. You know, start in the morning, get to the garden, do breakfast, deal with my dogs, start to teach. I mean, sometimes I go from 4 in the morning to 8 in the night, but it's only when I have meetings between classes that things get chaotic, because you're sitting in one position for hours on end. Yeah, but other than that, no, the transition has been easy, and yeah, it's been a learning experience and a lovely one. I enjoy not having to, you know, always get dressed and leave the house.
And now that your child has class inside, you could listen in on their classes. I know maybe they'd feel more inclined to share with you what was going on in school. Do you feel as though the quality of education from when they used to go to school and the amount of work that they're doing now, do you think that it has decreased drastically or same? Or...
I'm always self-censoring here because, you know, this is indeed a public forum. To be honest, okay, so because my two kids are literally at very different stages. The teenager, he basically, at least I try to allow for his education to be more self-directed or more independent.
Yes.
So I don't always pop in to hear what his teachers are saying, apart from the fact that I really don't have the time. But you know, he's in his own zone. So he's typically in his room. It's been outfitted so that he can do classes. Every so often though, I will open the door so that it doesn't feel as though he's completely isolated and I can't at least overhear what's going on at the moment when I do, you know, decide to tune in. But for the smaller child, he is within a little closer proximity to me. And to be honest, I understand that teachers have challenges in the rapid transition or in the rapid changes that they've had to make to go online. I'm not certain that, you know, that in his instance, that all of the available technologies or tools or new approaches that you know, this change allows us to maximize are being used. You know, he has a teacher who tends to be very traditionalist in terms of printed materials. There's the book in the textbook. Or, you know, but my thing is, he's also a child who's very social and who loves conversation. And it's not always necessarily, it's not, for me, some of the methodologies or some of the things that I'm seeing and overhearing, aren't challenging enough for him or aren't appealing to him. And for me, it's also missing out on building a critical set of skills that the present context, you know, says they need to have, and not like tomorrow, but like yesterday. You know, so for me, I have a challenge in terms of the rapid adoption of new methodologies, new approaches to to education, it's not happening fast enough in some instances. And that for me speaks to a sort of level of inequality or you know, unequal distribution of resources across the system, right? And also at different educational levels. But we could always dig a little deeper into that a little later on. So that's my feedback for now.
Okay.
Wow, that's an interesting question. Being an educator myself, in terms of has it decreased? From my own perspective, I was fortunate to have gone to a junior secondary school where, as students, you needed to teach yourselves. So learn to be an independent learner. For my child that lives with me, from a very early age, I taught her to be an independent learner. DVDs, videos, whatever it is, construct your own curriculum, do what you want. So now in her studies, she still does that. She still is an independent learner. I mean, I understand Rachel's point in terms of the education system is missing an opportunity. And that is something that, I mean, if you allow me maybe half a minute, I can address. Having children at home without the social interaction and without much hands-on stuff, it was an opportunity for the ministry, especially at the lower levels, secondary school, primary school, to roll out their STEM or their STEAM curriculum, which would have allowed parents to go to the stores, pick up a couple things where the children can do experiments at home and report on this rather than having to sit behind a computer for 8 hours a day. I mean, that is ridiculous for kids. It would have been better just give a set of projects, let the child do these projects, record their observations, write reports, analyze it, and send it off to the teachers. I mean, it's really a missed opportunity. So it's not that it has deteriorated. It's just that the application of the traditional methodology in this under these conditions is going to fail a lot of people.
Okay. So a little interesting question. Well, there's no telling when this pandemic will be over. But would you say that you're looking forward to school reopening?
Me?
Like, are you looking forward to it? I mean, it could be for any reason, just, send the children to school, you get a little time to do what you have to do. Or it could be that, it might be better for your child to interact and be there in person. So would you say that you're excited for schools to reopen eventually?
Not really. I believe the current education system is failing the society. I'm being honest. We have too many people falling through the cracks. We are trying to teach people to read, remember, and regurgitate, rather than teaching them skills for survival or being able to become innovative and interact with technology. I believe if parents would take the initiative at this point in time with their kids at home and start collecting materials, even just going to YouTube and getting the curriculum, going to YouTube, finding videos, going to the shop or the store and buying things and getting the children to interact with stuff and do things, that would result in a better education system. In terms of the socializing, young people have a way of doing things in terms of socializing at this point in time. Who is not online playing online games? There, what's this thing on Netflix where you can synchronize your movies and look at your movies together?
Yeah, the
Netflix party.
Yeah, see, right? And they do all and they do all their stuff together virtually, right?
Yes.
And if they create their own bubbles, they visit each other, right? And have their small group socializing. So I don't really see school opening as a big thing to look forward to.
Okay.
Wow, I concur wholeheartedly with a lot of what Morales said because, well, one, in my case, My younger son tends to be asthmatic. And so in a situation where he is still in the at-risk or highly vulnerable category, I'm not going to be taking chances with an unseen enemy.
Right.
And we know that even persons who have been uber cautious have, have contracted the disease, and sometimes you don't even, the virus, sorry, and you can't always be sure of where it is and exactly how you got it. So that risk for me is still there. And until there is some sort of level of guarantee, I wouldn't want to put him into, as you say, a school where people are coming from outside of our bubble and increase our risk. Nobody's at 0% risk. So my thing is just to keep it as low as possible. But like you, I've been actually reveling in the opportunity that them not being at school presents. I remember one day I had some phone issues and I needed to get stuff sorted out. And I was like, dude, we're going to go and work at Rituals while the phone is being repaired somewhere. And he was able to, so my thing is the mobility and flexibility that online learning allows, for me is an excellent way for us to blend real life learning that unfortunately doesn't happen in the curriculum.
Right.
So there are days when, okay, if the teacher, like, okay, for example, the high schooler, his sessions are typically recorded. If there is a day when we decide, okay, no, as a family, we're going to go jump on a boat and go down the island and learn the geographic formations of the different islets and the different inns and bays of our country, he can still come back and catch up on the lesson that was recorded,
Right.
otherwise, but it enriches our quality of life. As a family, I don't have to say, oh gosh, well, the children have to be in school on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday between 8 and 5. Oh, no, we now have the opportunity to blend quality of life things and learning in better ways. The other thing for me too is, and because I would have shared, for example, my concerns about the technological and technical skills that I'm not seeing embedded in the current curriculum, is being online allows me now to go and access wherever those resources exist. So whether it's in UK-based programs or other online schools or tutorial programs, I have the freedom to do that with my child now, to say, okay, here's what. Yes, typical school will be, these times, but I'm going to let your teacher know that unfortunately you will clock out at half day because you'll be doing a tutorial session for computer or for editing of videos in a different program because your school doesn't offer it. And this is what, unfortunately, the future requires, or in fact, the present requires of these kids. So I'm not in a hurry for us to go back at all to any sort of traditional model of school. In fact, we need to do away with that completely. One of the things that my kids will say, and I think other members in my family are still grappling with, is the fact that I have been very vocal about traditional education not being the answer.
Yeah.
When you consider, if you want children to live abundant, wealthy lives, the primary lessons that they need for that aren't necessarily taught through the school curriculum. I've been teaching my children, I said, you need to learn what enhances your strengths and your abilities. So I have a child who's very artistic. He's excellent at art and drawing, and he wants to do graphic design and all these things. It may not have been a regular part of his school curriculum, but I was like, okay, so there's Edmodo, there's not Edmodo, there's Udemy, there's, Coursera, and he, as a high schooler, has been exposed to tertiary level programs online already. But he's building his strengths. He's not just following a routine that's set that doesn't cater to building his strengths. So I'm honestly, brick and mortar doesn't work anymore for the future that I'm foreseeing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. And taking a moment to focus on you as the parent, how would you say you balance working, taking care of your children, and then do you make time to see your friends or relax? How do you do that?
That's interesting. Um, in, in terms of balance, I mean, as I said, I have developed rituals, and as part of that ritual is to get a debrief certain points in the week in terms of, okay, what's happening with your courses? Are you up to date with your of assignments. How are your friends? Because it's important to know what's happening in their social life, even though they're not. And to where my friends are concerned, yes, I take time to see my friends because we're all social beings and we need to interact with people. Right? So, yeah, things get done.
Oh, definitely. Yes. Um, every time I'm heading out the house, and my son asks, "So where are you going?" I have a life. That's my answer. And one evening, I happened to retort that way, and his friends who were there, I think they were playing some online game or whatever, and everybody heard me through the headphones. And of course, he got roasted. I was like, dude, are you asking me where I'm going? I have a life. But no, it is important that and for me it's also important to live as an example. My kids knew from early that I did not give up being who I was because I was their mother. I didn't give up being the other parts of myself because I became a mommy. No, 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 no. So I make time, and the thing is, if I did that, then I would be completely unhappy, and I would not be able to serve in the function of mother appropriately or adequately. So I do make time. I have to connect with my girlfriends because we have to chat, we have to chat, we have to chat. Or there are days when I say, okay, you know what, I need a wine break. I'm off duty. The title mommy no longer applies. If I hear the word mommy, obviously I won't be answering. I'm off duty. I'm having a glass of wine. Yeah. So you have to have the self-care moments because, as you know, we always say you can't pour from an empty cup. And it's very true. When you are we can't give 100% to work and 100% to kids and 100% to church and 100% to everybody else who has these constant demands of us. And there are days when I have literally just gone off the grid. I don't answer my phone. I don't respond to emails. I don't respond to messages because I need my space. I need my time, even if it's only in my head.
Yeah.
So that's important for maintaining. And I wouldn't say that we look for balance because things have, the demands of a certain time, the proportion shifts. So like there are times when I will pay for help to come in because I'm like, I need to give 200% to work because this is what is happening now. But I'll pay for help because the kids still need to be fed and, routines still need to continue. So there's never, ever going to be the equitable division of time or effort. But you just have to find ways around it. That's how I approach it.
Yeah.
Let me just extend that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe balance is within the same 24-hour day. I believe balance is over the period of time.
Uh-huh.
All right, so
Right.
like I believe
Yes.
Timothy Ferris, the guy who wrote Four Hour Work Week,
Mm-hmm.
he has this concept of taking mini retirements. He says every couple of years you take a break, 3 to 4 months, put us somewhere where your money is worth more, and
Yes.
just integrate with the locals and do nothing. I mean, it's a beautiful concept. Trust me, you should do it like at least once every 3 to 4 years. Feel good at the end.
Wow.
I will be trying that.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I'm sure. Um, so you've shared a lot about, self-care, balance, the education system. What is some advice that you would give to some parents who want to make their children's education their responsibility? Because as parents, sometimes you have to take things into your own hands because, as we know, the system is not perfect. And if you want your children to go in a certain direction, well, my mom always says to me, it's my responsibility to ensure that I point you towards the correct direction, even if your school isn't doing that? So, what advice or recommendation or like some ideas that parents can use, maybe some websites to help their children along their road of education?
Mhm.
Okay.
I'll let the educator start.
Thank you. I believe my situation might be different, and I will say why. The first point is knowing your child.
Mm,
So, for example, my child was a born rebel, and if you try to force her to do something, she would not do it under any condition. I can recall shouting at her when she was maybe about standard one, standard two. Yeah, when she got to standard five, I like math.
mm-hmm.
And I had to think like, and the principal is arguing with me, you are an engineer, you know math, your child should know math. And I'm thinking, but it's your job to teach the child math. She
Yeah.
said, she said, no, it is more than that. The child is just turned off of mathematics. And I needed to recall that 3 or 4 years prior, I shouted at this child where mathematics was concerned.
Right.
And I took time to apologize to this child and guarantee to this child that I will never shout at her where schoolwork is concerned again, where math is concerned, and that she can always come to me with any math problem and we will work it through. It took about 2 months to 3 months after that for her to gain confidence in it. And her math scores went from an average of 50% to over 85% in less than 2 months, just because of an apology.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing your child is one thing. I mean, even today, well, now, I mean, she is at university now. And because she knows to just select anything, she is just selecting anything, but time is short. And
Right.
me, being an educator, knowing that time is short, I know you really need to be focused. So shooting at just throwing darts widely would not have gotten her a degree or with a set of knowledge or set of skills that she could have sold or utilized to make her future better.
Right.
So it took time for me to convince her in terms of what combination of courses she should select and how they were linked together and how they complemented everything that she has been doing in her life.
Mm,
I didn't force it, I just pointed them out.
right.
Then one day I got a timetable saying, okay, I'm doing this, this, and this. And I said, okay.
Okay, it
Right?
works.
So
Yeah.
no, really. So knowing your child is important and developing that confidence in the child, allowing them to be able to make their decisions, knowing that their future is theirs. I'm not going to live their life for them. Make them independent, have them make their own decisions, but be there to support them anytime they fall. You know, they need to know that you're there. If not, they will not fly. That's just it. That's so for me, getting to know that individual, and as Rachel said a while ago, what are the strengths of that individual, and help them to become that person.
Mm,
Yeah, that's
Thank you. Oh my gosh, that is, I mean, it's almost like I'm hearing you say a lot of what is already in my head. One of the first things I learned, well, I shouldn't say one of the first things. What I learned as a parent of two boys who have very different giftings and abilities, um, is that you have to understand that treating a child equitably does not mean treating them, each child, the same, or giving each child the same thing. And I've also had to make that point to them. You know, so for example, the son who's an artist, I would have invested in getting him a digital drawing tablet and certain other things so that, you know, he can practice his skill and grow in this way. And, you know, the younger son who tends to have a gift for language and for speech and for these things, I'm investing in other things for him. So my first thing is, as a parent, you've got to stop. And as he said, apart from knowing your child, recognize what their strengths, abilities, and giftings are. And instead of focusing on what they don't do well, because, you know, sometimes they, oh gosh, well, he know the maths and you want to drive it home and you want to, no, you've got to cater to their strengths. I mean, if Rihanna's parents had decided that she didn't understand chemistry well enough and they need to spend all the money for her to go to chemistry lessons because she has to get it right, Rihanna wouldn't be singing and dancing and, and earning the kind of living that she's earning now. So my thing is, one of the things parents got to do is shift from focusing on children's weaknesses or their failings and build their strengths. And it's amazing how if you build those strengths, they also improve in the areas where they're not as strong. Right, so that was one of the key things that I would have recognized and learned. And I actually need to say that I didn't just learn it on my own. It was a lesson that we derived from my grandmother's life, because she had many children and each of them with various different giftings. And it was amazing that for a woman who herself wasn't university educated and who had struggled through poverty, she was able to see in each of these children their different giftings, and she worked with them according to those giftings. And they have far exceeded and surpassed what anybody would have imagined that her children would have done in these various areas. So for me, that lesson, that example, that model is what I drew on, in seeking to pursue an education for my children. And my thing is, I've traveled, I've lived abroad, I've experienced different cultures, etc. And one of the key things and I've read a lot of books, and there was a definition one day of wealth that stuck with me. And wealth wasn't about the amount of money that you had, but rather the base of wealth was how much are you able to produce and contribute to society. And you could produce products, you could produce services, but the more you are able to produce, then the more abundance you will attract, the more options you have for earning a living. And I thought, I'm sorry, but our current school curriculum does not educate our children to be able to generate or produce different things in different ways. The traditional approach is go to school, study hard, get a good work, keep the work, let it go. You understand? And that's not what wealth or abundance is. So my thing was, okay, how do I educate my children differently? One, they've been exposed to different cultures through travel. They've been exposed to different facets of intelligence. Well, my mom is also a teacher and a principal. She concluded her life as a principal, and so you learn about multiple intelligences. So I was never only focused on my children developing academically. They love dance and they love theater and drama and so my thing is, you can, through these various talents and skills that God gave you, because you're not going to get one talent and bury it in the ground, right? All them talent have to multiply. But my thing is, I had to unlearn what we would have been raised in, or what we would have been taught as coming up. So I as a parent, I don't think that my children only have to be lawyers, doctors, scientists, etc. They can be artists, they can be musicians, they can be a combination of everything. And we've seen a world emerge where, for example, one of my son's favorite bloggers, Mark Rober, he is a vlogger, right? So he does these science videos and everything. The man helped to build the Curiosity, which was one of the first rovers that landed on the moon. Wow. But he's making millions now as somebody who's doing blogs and vlogs and educating in a different manner. So he could have been, a straight-laced, I'm only working in this box scientist, but he's so much more. And so I want parents nowadays to realize you've got to disabuse yourself from the idea that the square boxes are the only places your child should fit. There's no, so what you want to be when you grow up? A fireman, a policeman? Honey, you can be all that your talents allow you to be when you are growing up. And so what I've done as, to follow through on that core belief is, like I said, I expose my children. I tell them, you need to learn what you want to learn. Because that's one of the ways to get them into focus mode. Like I had a son, he wanted to learn the Rubik's Cube. And it had no Rubik's Cube and nobody's school curriculum. But he was like, I've got to do this. And he sat down and he studied the algorithms and he memorized the whatnot. And now and I'm still like, which way do I turn this? But you've got to let them learn things that they're interested in, that they're passionate about, without constricting them to that. But by learning algorithms for Rubik's Cube, he's been developing a skill, a mental skill that allows him to have the discipline as well as the understanding for other algorithms in his ad math and in his, whatever areas. So yes, parents, we've got to be open-minded. We've got to take a different approach. In terms of websites, I tell you, I love things like Udemy and Teachables and all of any educational, even YouTube, because my kids know, watching gameplay throughs and unboxing. Go find that genes. And every time I pop in, it's like, what are you watching? You have to be able to explain to me, okay, well, this is a cartoon. However, it's dealing with the existentialism in, there's always that discussion about what is the purpose of what you're looking at? How does that add value to what you know or what you want to do? So that's my approach. Yeah.
Wow. That was a lot. Wow.
Yes, it was. I'm sorry.
No, not
No,
not
no
bad way,
apologies.
just like to sit in and process a lot of knowledge to be gained from this discussion.
We have to take a different approach. The times are changing rapidly, My mom as a principal, I tell them, I've learned a lot from her. She's a lifelong learner. I've grown up seeing her doing courses, and my mother learned how to build a website way back when and didn't even know how to turn on the computer properly. But until she had told me that. but she was always interested in learning new things. Mm-hmm. And as an educator, one of the things she said she constantly grappled with is the fact that she was educated yesterday to teach children today for a future that's going to come. So how do you take knowledge from the past to give to children now that's going to equip them for a world that could be vastly different from that point in time? So as parents, we've got to continue to learn and be open to new ideas and new ways of doing things.
Yeah.
And we've also got to be a little clairvoyant at times, trying to keep up with what's happening and trying to foresee into the future what could be possible for our kids.
Especially because the world is evolving constantly. And some of the jobs that people are pursuing are either soon to be extinct or there are too many people in there. As my mom says, and everybody could be a doctor. And everybody could be a rocket scientist. Not everybody could be an actress. So as like what Riza was saying, and well, Burrell as well, you really have to look at the giftings that each child has, because I feel like if that's kind of an indicator from God in terms of the direction that they should be going in. So I think that's important. And Rhiannon, I would like to thank you guys for coming and sharing and taking time out of your day, because as we are all working from home, we know that's not easy to find a little block. So we appreciate it and we thank you so much for discussing with us.
Welcome.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to suggest a topic, leave a message in the comment section.
If you'd like to see more videos, click the subscribe button and turn on your post notifications.